again. I've got no right to take my place with the human race.
Hey up internet, Black Sofa here, and I wanted to come back to YouTube on a happier occasion than this, but something happened today which frankly made my blood boil, and I wanted to take some time to talk about it. It made me really angry and quite upset, and I felt that I had to take some time to calm down before I actually made a video responding to what happened. Allow me to explain. Now, recently, a good friend of ours, someone who was a good friend to a lot of us here on the internet, on YouTube and on Twitter, sadly lost his battle with cancer. And as those of us who knew him were mourning and passing our condolences to his wife and family on Twitter, SJ Thomason felt it necessary to tweet, "He'll be in heaven so long as he's willing." She went on to say, "We all have the choice of heaven or hell. Mark deserves heaven based on his service in the military and his kindness. But if he chooses hell, he chooses hell. His tattoos of Satan suggest his choice is in that camp. Consider that hell killed him. Isn't that enough?" Now, apart from the fact that what she said isn't even biblical and goes against mainline theological thinking, which I'll touch on later, it is, in my opinion, wildly inappropriate to bring that up when she did, when people are mourning his death. It is really thoughtless and tactless to start preaching the gospel at such a time, especially to say that the person who has died is now in hell. Even when I was a Christian, even when I was a fundamental, born-again, Pentecostal Christian, I personally wouldn't have dreamt of doing such a thing. I wouldn't have said such a thing at a funeral or wake, and I certainly wouldn't have said such a thing on such a public forum as Twitter, and certainly not at the time that she did. I'm autistic, and even I know that that saying what she said, when she said it, was unbelievably crass and thoughtless, and the timing of it was way off the mark. But it seems to me that SJ has no sense of decency, no sense of compassion, and no sense of thoughtfulness, and it really made me, and I dare say other people, angry and very upset. She has now deleted those 2 tweets. She hasn't apologized. And I really urge you, SJ, if indeed you are watching this, to make a public apology, to make your apology as public as the error in judgment that you made, and reflect on how to conduct yourself as a Christian, not just as a Christian, but as a decent human being. You may also want to reflect on your theology, because what you said is unbiblical, and I may even go as far to say unchristian. You said that Mark deserves heaven based on his service in the military and his kindness. But if you have studied theology, especially Pauline theology, you should know full well that the theology of the New Testament, especially Pauline theology, is that we're not saved by good works. None of us deserve heaven. It doesn't matter how good or kind we are all evil, and not one of us live up to God's perfect standards and fall short of his glory. The Bible makes this clear. We deserve hell. So you're wrong on that point. And we, according to Christian theology, according to New Testament theology, certainly Pauline theology, can only be saved by faith and not by works. And secondly, it isn't hell that killed him. Cancer did. So you may want to rethink that point too. So your theology is wrong, in my opinion, And that's from someone who has also studied theology at theological college for 3 years and holds a degree in biblical theology. But that aside, I know that you think, because I've been there. I was a Christian. I was born again, spirit filled, tongue speaking, fundamental Christian. And I believed wholeheartedly that it was better to risk offending someone temporarily than see them spend an eternity in hell. That's how we were brought up. That's what we were taught from the pulpit. But that's bollocks. I say that with authority now, these days, because I know that hell does not exist, and I think you do too. And you have to realize that what you did was wrong. It was out of order. And I hope you now know how Joan of Arc felt as the flames rose to her Roman nose and her Walkman started to melt. See you next Tuesday.